Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? It's a beautiful day. The Celtics are 18-time NBA champions, and I am a Celtics homer. So why not have some bigger Celtics homer than myself? Two of them, actually, who love the Celtics, who cover the Celtics, who have their own Celtics podcast, the Celtics Lab, and some very vibrant Twitter accounts as well. So I'm very happy to have them on the show. Let's see, what kind of intro should I give them? We'll just give them a good old community, and let's intro our guests, Cam and Justin.
We love the community.
Wow, that was spectacular. Thanks for having us. What's up, Justin?
Indeed. Not too much, you.
I just watched Al Horford eat Raising Cane's chicken good for that man. He told us basically he won the title on Monday. He didn't leave his house until this afternoon, and the first thing he did was he probably cut a big check to go and eat chicken in front of Celtics fans. So good for Al Horford.
I feel like that's what you need to do when you win a championship. Like, your stock has never been higher. It's the same for all like role players. You know, you see guys like Bruce Brown get paid right after he wins a championship. Who do you think on the Celtics team slots into that position? Like, who on the team might find themselves somewhere else getting possibly overpaid next season?
I think I have a good answer for that one. If it's going to be anybody, I think it's going to be Luke Cornett.
Oh, I had a different answer. Wait, explain yours while I...
Sure. So there are a number of players who are either up for an extension or free agency this summer, and the only real free agents Boston has are the three backup big guys, Luke, Nimish Keta, and Tillman. And of the three, I think the most likely who could be poached by a different team that might spend more than Boston is willing to spend would be Cornett. I think that Tillman has done a fine job as well, but I think people saw more of Cornett this season with Boston and saw what he could do, and he could easily be a second big on most teams in the NBA and could be paid like one, which he is not.
Derek White is not a free agent, but he is due for an extension, and I mean, maybe the Celtics would play hardball, but I imagine he's going to get a lot of money. So it's not really technically I'm cheating, but I'm going to pick Derek White just because he's next in line for a real payday. How about that? My original answer was going to be Hauser, but they just locked him up on an unbelievable deal. It's like 3 years, $5 million a year or something. So,
oh man,
maybe it's 3 years. No, that was in the spring, but I guess we missed it.
Oh, I thought you because there's another one. No. Hauser has an opt out, so he's actually going to be extension eligible as well. And they are even talking about maybe declining that team option that they have on him, so they can give him a bigger deal down the road, which would make sense and would also help diminish the impact on their tax bill with the whole second apron thing kicking in. So that's going to be pretty interesting. That's John Hollinger in the Atlantic. If you want to read more about that, or excuse me, the Athletic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Derek White deserves all the monies. He really has impressed. I think I don't think anyone could have predicted that Derek White would be this good of a player when he came from San Antonio with that haircut. And now he's just solid. And he's like one of your most trustworthy guys, top defensive player, can hit the three. I mean, everyone on this team, it felt like almost slotted into that position where like anyone could hit a three. You could sort of give the ball to anyone at any time. This team was really special. And as someone who I got to see the 2008 team, I'm curious where you guys were. Were you in their same level of fandom in 2008? And how do you compare those two teams?
Wow. I guess I'll go first. I was a sophomore, junior in high school when they won. I think sophomore. Uh, so not only like in the thick of being a fan and a reasonable fan, but like beginning to actually understand how things work. So understanding a little bit about the history and the context and what they did. So I felt really, really, really dialed in. It's funny. So I was in-house doing work for the playoffs and the finals. And obviously I was super dialed in, like I knew what was happening. But it's only in the past few days really hit me that like, oh, a team that I root for won a title, not the team that I'm like focused on. Justin's down in Mexico City, so I'm the only one that's calling from Boston. Shout out to the gentleman from Belgium. Thanks for the message. Yeah, like the city buses here say go Celtics, and suddenly, colleagues or parents or people are asking about the Celtics when they never do. So it does have the aura and the buzz of a title. And it's really only the past few days that I've been able to like pick my head up and notice that. So I was gangbusters for them back in the day. I root for them in like a completely different capacity now, but I'm more happy, but in different ways. Justin, what about you?
Ooh, boy. Well, I'm a little older, and I was returning to school for the second time after a 9-year gap from going immediately into college from high school and not being ready for it. I was going to take a little time off, and suddenly, almost a decade later, oof. So I was at this little tiny liberal arts school called New College of Florida. It's in the news a lot lately for all the wrong reasons. We do not need to go into that. And I would watch the Celtics having this amazing season after mostly ignoring them for the latter half of the 90s and the early parts of the aughts, just because it was the wilderness period. It was a terrible time until Pierce got there, and even then it was barely watchable some seasons. So I was really enjoying watching the Celtics kind of come back onto the national stage and occupy people's minds with their, rich and vibrant history that I grew up on and witnessed as a little kid. Like I was like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old during the Bird years. So like I was old enough to see it but not really understand it. And this other guy was always sitting on the couch. You may know him. His name is Hunter Felt. He writes for The Guardian and for Forbes. He was also on the couch. He out of a 600-person class.
Wait,
two of us went on to
really?
cover. Yes, really.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. We're both alums of this itty bitty hippie school, and we were both riveted by it, obviously, and it kind of set us in the direction of getting involved many years down the road, 4 or 5 years from then, into shall we say some very bloggy journalistic adventures that didn't start remunerating at least me for several years after I had been doing it.
Okay. All right. So then you're an old school Celtics fan. I am as well. And I remember suffering through the days of, I guess like Ricky Davis and like Gerald Wallace. And so, yeah, it's a big deal, obviously. I think what a lot of people are wondering right now is, can this team repeat? I feel like obviously, you know how difficult that is to do. It's very, very difficult. So few teams have done it. But it almost feels like the Celtics have a pretty good chance of doing it. Maybe not next year, but I feel like if their key core isn't separating, then why wouldn't they have a good chance of doing it? I mean, they put on a historically good season. What's going to change so drastically that they won't be right in the mix of it, as soon as next season?
I actually think that well, first let's all look. This is an inevitable question, right? It is the question. We're going to podcast ourselves very soon on this more or less topic, not directly, but what comes next, right? And after having gone through that wilderness period, and then almost as long this time around, let's make sure we create enough space to really soak this in for another couple of days at least before we really dial into that stuff.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. There's no reason to believe that they will not be well positioned. We cannot depend on ankle sprains and groin pulls and other things like that smoothing the path a bit, or happening to Boston, right? So like things like this can always happen. It's why getting back to the finals was such a big deal to Tatum, because after last season he got a really rude awakening on just how hard it is, really, even where he was at in his career, to get back to that point. So while I do agree with you, I would still take the field over Boston just because so many things can go wrong or right for other teams.
That's fair.
Yeah, we spent all season, Justin and I, like week after week, Sean Grandy from the radio in particular would pump out these historical comps and stats. And as fall turned to winter, turned to spring, it was like, Jesus, this really is a historically great team. And for a while, I kept saying, these aren't the Warriors, these aren't the Bulls. We're spoiled in that we've gotten to see really great teams. We forget what it looks like to be really, really, really good. And that being really, really, really good is okay. But now that the dust has settled, there are a lot of data points that suggest this was a uniquely talented team. So, I don't know, history, the second you start doing sports history, everything feels inevitable. It doesn't feel random and circumstantial the way it does in the moment. And to Justin's point, Boston got a little bit lucky. But at the same time, Tatum, the way that Tatum and Brown got better this season and got better this postseason is so special because they're 26 and 27. They're not so 32 young. And 33 playing on increasingly tired legs. They're just getting out and sprinting. So I don't know. I feel like we should maybe register how often Porzingis was injured this year. He did play 57 games, but he also missed most of the postseason. Al Horford,
but when he was injured, is absolutely critical too, which is, again, like there's always so much luck built into an NBA championship, even when you have, as Cam's noting, a historical level of talent. We were talking when Cam was busy enjoying the bowels of TD Garden. Alex, our other co-host, and I, we were talking about just how unusual it is to have a team that could have 4 Hall of Famers on this roster easily. I mean, like, you look back to what is arguably the best basketball team of all time in the 1986 Celtics. They had 5. The Celtics, this version of the Celtics is not all that far in terms of the talent as it's recognized in the day. Now, we all look back at some of those careers, and maybe Danny Ainge will end up in the Hall of Fame as well because of what he's done beyond his playing career. I think he's got a pretty good chance at that at this point. I mean, he built 2 more title squads, if we're counting this one, to a certain extent. He did have a big hand in it. So I don't know if we can overemphasize the historic aspect of it. This is a truly amazing team.
Andy,
so, of course, I have to... Sorry, Cam, go ahead.
What do you think?
What do I think about if this is a truly historic team?
No, if they're going to repeat.
Oh, if they're going to repeat?
I'll say yes, just to make it interesting. So
yeah.
Justin says no, I say yes. Break the tie.
I don't say no, I say it's unlikely.
It is unlikely, but I'll just be a homer and say yes.
Cool.
Because I mean, like, the Vegas odds, I think I look at them today and they're like almost 200. So you're literally taking what Vegas considers to be a losing bet, but they are the favorites still, even at whatever they are, 180 plus 180. So when you compare, I guess, the 2008 and the 2024 teams, um, who would win the 7 games?
Oh, fun. That
Today's style of play or the style of play back then? Like, who's taking the time machine?
they'll
'Cause
meet
I
in the
think
middle
that's
at
the
like
key.
2016, 17. How's that?
Yeah, let's be in the middle.
That's
It's
tough.
2016.
That's
Well, what changed though in 2016? Are we talking about like rules of the NBA, or is that everyone shoots
Well,
threes?
Yeah,
Frequency of 3-pointers, the way that the game is officiated. I mean, if you really dial down, you can find a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think you could probably convince the 2008 team to play more like the 2000 or the 2024 championship team. I think the 2024 championship team would have a little bit of a harder time going back because they're a finesse team and they've been a finesse team. And even finesse teams back then would be bruising teams now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It does very much depend on what age of the game we're talking about. Like Mike over here thinks that the 24 team kills the 08 team. I don't know.
In
I
today's
can't-
rules, absolutely. They'll
Yeah,
smoke
in
them.
today's rules, okay, fine.
Absolutely.
It's just hard for me to take that with knowing the caliber of
Math.
talent on that 08 team.
Go back and look at the finals games and look at how many threes the team shot.
I mean, they
Okay.
only I'm looking right now. 2008, they averaged 19 per game. That would be like dead last in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
But
But
I guess
all
like,
teams are doing that, right?
Exactly.
it's that 2008 is one of the best defenses of all time. 2004 is technically 2024 is one of the best offenses of all time. But Justin, to your point, the goalposts have moved so much that another team's going to.
Comparable.
Yeah, next year someone's going to be the best offense of all time, and the year after that, just the way that the efficiency numbers are.
In
playing
5 years,
out.
it'll be a different sport, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the 08 team just because the way they defend, but there would be 2 games where the 24 team wins by like 30 because of the 3-point shooting. But I don't know, that goes back to the like I was a fan of the 08 team when I was 15 years old. I can't not think of them as like superheroes on defense.
Exactly.
And maybe if I watched the tape, it'd be like, all right, they're not that good. But
Yeah.
I just feel like Kevin Garnett would put Kristaps Porzingis in the ground in a meaningful and profound way, almost from the jump.
Immediately. Yeah.
I agree.
You might have a point there.
Yeah. And Ray Allen, I mean, if you're gonna let him shoot 1,000 threes a game, like he's gonna hit a good percentage of those. And
he won't be the one taking the backseat on the roster.
yeah. So I think something also kind of humorous to me is the reaction of like general NBA Twitter and your Heat fan accounts and your Laker fan accounts. What do you make of all the sourpusses on Twitter? I don't know if you guys have seen that. I mean, I'm pretty sure
How can
Cam's.
you not?
They're out there.
What
They
do
are
you say?
ubiquitous in the same way we are ubiquitous.
Yeah. I guess it's just part of being a fan of like any major team in sports, which is sort of part of the fun. And also Elon Musk pays you for being sort of a jerk.
The incentive structure to be awful on the internet has never been worse.
I know. But what do you make of this? Like, why do people dislike Jason Tatum so much? That's something that I'm still scratching my head about. Why people hate him?
They
And
could have
why
drafted
did
him.
Yeah, they could have drafted him.
Yeah.
They didn't. Maybe that's why they hate him.
That's a particularly good reason to be unhappy. He likes Kobe, but plays for the wrong team. That's another good reason.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cam.
I think I have 2 takes. One is that there are only so many takes to go around in the NBA, and people just regurgitate a few of the same hot takes. So in the same way that last year, ad nauseum, if Joe Mazzulla did or did not call a timeout, it was like, oh, Joe Mazzulla timeouts. Like it just becomes part of the zeitgeist, I guess. And I think being a Jason Tatum hater is part of the zeitgeist. I would also hazard that he's perfect. Like I heard reputable, I won't name names, but like reputable media people. So after the game, Tatum on tape is going, oh my God, we just won. We just won. We did it. And he like yells really loud. And everyone is like, oh, he's trying to be KG. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to pull rank here, but I've met Tatum. That was the most genuine reaction of anyone who's ever been on television camera. That was not played for history or reductive.
What do you expect them to do? Like give
Right.
a dress?
So I think people just like genuinely can't believe that this like handsome guy who went to Duke, who went to the Glamour franchise, who has been great from the jump, who wins all these awards, who does every ad, is nearly as good as advertised. I mean, I don't know why he kicks out his legs like that on 3-pointers, but I think it's just he's a little boring and he's nearly perfect, and there's just like not that much texture there. So either you're with it or you're against it.
Yeah, I guess he's vanilla. You either love vanilla ice cream or you hate it, perhaps.
I push back on vanilla. I don't see him as vanilla at all. Actually, what I see him as embodying what a modern superstar needs to do in this particular CBA, because you need players, and this is, in my opinion, the reason why Boston made very quick work of the Mavericks. The Mavericks have some incandescent offensive talents with some good defensive pieces, whereas Boston has players who can affect the game in so many different ways, and they don't necessarily need to include scoring, which is the archetype we have been spoon-fed for, particularly the last half decade to 8 years or so, since like the real peak of the Golden State Warriors. And now the league is shifting where if you can't afford to pile all the offensive players on one team, as we used to be able to see like the Golden State Warriors do, then you have to approach the game differently, which means you need people who can absolutely shut you down on defense and give you double-digit assists on nights when their shot is not falling because they're getting double and even triple coverage, which for Jason Tatum was pretty much every night. If people think that Jaylen Brown would be holding that Finals MVP without him doing that, there's no chance. They would shut him down the same way he was shut down in 22. They need to have those kinds of players who can draw attention. Ooh,
I think we lost him.
Okay, hopefully he comes
back.
Yeah. So like these like they go together, and the national media, I will give them credit. For a very long time, we were very frustrated about the kind of narratives that you were talking about these fans also latching onto. They latched onto it as well because, it got clicks and got people's interests, but it was never very thorough analysis. And I'm really happy to see that people are actually starting to pull more defined stories out of what is actually happening and why Jason Tatum was successful and why Jaylen Brown, for that matter, was successful as well.
Yeah, I think my internet might have just crapped the bed, but I think I'm back. But yeah, I agree. And I when I say Jason Tatum is vanilla, I mostly mean he doesn't really give the media like the sound bites. So I think Cameron, I'll bring you back, Cameron, when you're settled. I think his computer battery probably died. But yeah, he doesn't give you the sound bites. He doesn't call people mother effers in the front row, and like that. I think that's what's vanilla about Jason Tatum. And I think
that is true. He's a very even keeled, except with the referees, they're not so much now. Star.
Yeah. He does complain a bit to the refs. But were you surprised? And Cam, as soon as your camera looks stable, I'll bring you back. Okay. Were you surprised at, like, for me, I wasn't keeping like a very close eye, let's say, on Luka Doncic throughout the season. Like, obviously, I know he's just an absolute phenom on offense. And people were calling him the potential MVP. And you saw how far he was able to take his team. But a guy like him can't play defense. So, like, how do you make sense of that?
He can play better defense, and he can play smarter defense than he did. And I am so glad he did not, because this might have been a very different series. I'm referring, of course, to Game 3 and him fouling out. But we also saw from then on, thanks in large part because of some excoriation he got from our brethren over at ESPN, he can defend, right? But he needs to be in better physical shape. He needs to have a better support system around him. They need more defenders, and they ironically also need more shooters, at least one more shooter on that team.
Yeah.
Luka is capable of being a good defender, but he is not unlike a certain other player we were just talking about 2 years ago, who's, again, always a better defender, but also had other wrinkles of his game, like complaining to referees and being behind plays chronically at that point in his career, that needed to be ironed out. And while Luka's not the same exactly as Tatum, he's 25 years old. This is the first time he's made it to a stage this big. I don't care how big the stage he was on in Europe. It's not the same.
Yeah.
He's growing.
Yeah. I think you're right. And that's a good point. And the Mavs are still so young. And I think also a certain Maverick I'm also curious about is Kyrie Irving. I mean, Cam, you were there. You obviously could soak in everything that the Boston crowd was hurling at Kyrie Irving. First of all, do you think that the Celtics fans went too far? And secondly, do you think the Celtics fans should still hate Kyrie Irving as much as they do now that they've sort of wiped him off the mat?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the pivot. Justin knows that my house has notoriously bad Wi-Fi, and they've been working on a street for like 12 months. So sorry, but I'm so glad that I got back for this question because I got takes. Yeah, Celtics fans can absolutely not be a fan of Kyrie Irving. The dude came to the team. He cut a commercial with his dad saying, "I would like to have my number retired here." And then the second things got tough, he bailed to play with his friend in New York, which is his prerogative. But look, you made the commercial and you flamed out in the playoffs in the process. And so I'm a high school teacher during the day, and I have students who are 15, 16 years old, and they're NBA fans. But they talk about like the cap, and they talk about all sorts of stuff that we're supposed to talk about. And I don't know, it goes back to how insidious the takes are on Twitter that there just isn't space for being a normal sports fan anymore. And normal sports fans are just supposed to hate the guys on the other team, especially when they spurred you. It's like going to a Red Sox Yankees game and then saying like, well, the Yankees are in a really tough financial situation and blah, blah, blah. No, you're just supposed to boo the other team. Now, you can't throw things at them. You never can throw things at them. You are not supposed to use slurs. You're not supposed to use language that's not PG-13. It's a shared human
Keep their
space.
family out of it. Just critique them in their game, or just boo them vigorously.
Yeah.
Like there's a right way to do it, but you have no obligation as a fan to play both sides. If you paid $2,400 to get in the door, half of the experience is watching the other team lose.
Yeah, you're right.
More than half, hopefully.
Let's see. What else can I ask you guys? So can Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum still play together, guys? Or no? I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Justin.
No, I was just going to say that for me personally, and this is important that I say for me personally because I am not a Jew. I am okay with Kyrie at this point. I cannot say whether or not other people feel that he has been contrite enough to be forgiven and other things we don't need to get into here related to that. But I will say, and this was a meme that was going around that I found very humorous, that he also promised other things when he was with the Celtics, including bringing the title to Boston, which unfortunately for him, he did.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's part of the what's so ridiculous. And Justin, I agree with you. Like, I'm shelving all of the political off the court stuff. Just as a player who was on your team and then he quit your team to join a different team, you don't root for him. He was really bad. That was so great. It's like when Johnny Damon joined the Red Sox and he wasn't very good. That's the kind of stuff you're supposed to live for as a sports fan.
Logo curses. Love them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the logo stomp thing was out of control, but it's campy and kind of wonderful. It was perfect.
It's good. It's WWE type stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we need more WWE type stuff in the NBA. We saw Kristaps Porzingis entering the arena as if he was entering on like a Monday Night Raw set.
It was like a Money in the Bank situation. Yeah,
it was just so cool. And then you have the championship belt. I saw there was a photo. Someone made a Celtics WWE championship.
That needs to be
belt.
a thing, man. That needs.
I know.
I'm sure that's showing up at the parade.
But not just the parade. I'm tired of this being some peripheral thing. I want to see the NBA champions go into every arena with a championship belt. And, you
why wouldn't you want to have that?
I know.
Yeah.
And then end the finals when the other team can take it.
November games to be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think they should do with that in-season tournament is make it a belt. Because at least then it's like something to hold and tactile and it's not just another stupid banner.
Is it strange, though, that the Lakers have won 2 Mickey Mouse championships?
No, well, I don't care. I think that
Mickey Mouse.
Other
than the location.
I think the in-season tournament thing is a joke. I think that the Disney one is probably one of the hardest earned titles there is.
No, I know. That's another Twitter take. I know. I don't take anything away from the bubble tournament. I'm sure that was actually very difficult. You're playing like away from your families. You're just in a super strange situation with the world melting, and somehow you have to focus on basketball. I mean, you can't really take anything away from that. But the in-season tournament thing is a little strange, and the colors of the court, I can't even look at them for more than 5 seconds without getting a migraine. But hey, if that's what lines Adam Silver's pocket, so be it. So here's another question for you all. Why were the Mavs such a popular pick? Like, that's something I also can't get my head around. Why were all these supposedly smart people on ESPN?
That's an easy answer.
So, okay, what is the answer? Why were they the pick?
They beat the defending national champs. They beat
Going back to the belts.
They beat the team that beat the national champs. They beat the top-ranked team in the West. There is this idea in people's lizard brain that it's like transverse qualities. Like if you beat one, then that team that beat them will also beat them. And people don't think about the importance of matchups, which is really the answer of why they advanced.
Does no one listen to
lizard
JJ
brain? They beat them, so we beat them.
Yeah, exactly.
I think also there was too much.
Sorry,
there was just too much time off. Boston just kicked so much ass that they were off for over a week. And I think recency bias really set in. They were like, well, I just saw the Mavs win a basketball game. And I've seen the Celtics play basketball in 7 days. So
people need things to write about.
Yeah, exactly. People need something to write about. But also, like, are humans just that sort of short time frame minded? They are, so they're like goldfish. It's like the Celtics literally dominated everyone the whole year. They dominated everyone in the playoffs. They have all this rest, and you're like, I'm gonna pick against them.
Almost anti-goldfish, because it's as if they're like elephants or whatever other animal you want to cite that never forgets. We all collectively kind of thought about 2022 and 2023.
That's fair.
More than we should have.
That's fair.
I think Kevin Durant is also right that just NBA fans don't like the NBA. I mean, what percentage of NBA fans? No, but like sincerely, I wonder what like, for example,
for teams to get broken up and drama to destroy people's seasons and fandoms and.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't even mean that. I mean, I think that's what Durant meant, but like, so the stat was 89% of bets went for the Mavs.
Oh, wow.
What percentage of those people watched more than like 3 Celtics games this season? And I'm not.
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like NBA fans are invited to have really big opinions with their $8 bully pulpits, but they might not necessarily like do the work to actually watch the games. And national media, it's like an ironic thing where you get to the point where you get to be a talking head on television by doing the work, but then when you get there, you're so busy you don't actually watch the games.
100%.
So, like, I listen to the Tony Kornheiser podcast all the time. And he openly is like, I go to bed at 9 o'clock every day. I haven't watched the second half of a major sports game in years. And yet he's one of the most celebrated voices on sports television. So it's a weird catch-22 of infotainment.
It's so true. And that's something I also notice. I mean, you see people like Kendrick Perkins and who like forgets people's names, or people on the TNT show, the Barkley doesn't know who plays for what team. And it's like, yeah, you're right. They don't really follow the sport anymore. They know they could just kind of get by being who they are.
I feel weird defending Kendrick Perkins, but in all fairness, I was on a call last week and I could not remember Sam Cassell's name for the entire show.
That's fair. Well, Justin, I know you got to go in a few minutes, and Cam, you let me know when you need to go. But I wanted to ask you, both of you, but Justin, you can answer this as well, which is, what do you think about like honoring players that got you to where you are to get the championship? I mean, there's certain players that played such a big part in getting the Celtics team over the hump. When are we going to give a complimentary, I don't know, ring or friendship bracelet?
I have an idea for this.
Go ahead, Justin.
There should be a golden baton.
Okay.
Literally. And you get it if you were a core part of a championship team that went on to win the title after you left it. Has to be within one season. Can't be like 2, 3, 4 seasons ago. That would just start getting ridiculous. But if you wanted to give one to Marcus Smart, you wanted to give one to, I don't know, Rob Williams. If you wanted to give one to Danny Ainge, that would be what it'd be for.
Yeah. Grant Williams.
Exactly. Some people might push back on that. I would not. He actually was pretty critical to a couple different playoff runs. I mean, he was the proto Derek White with the face meets parket. So yeah, I hope he went to go see the dentist before they went to Miami. Good Lord, that looked like my poor snaggly teeth.
There's a video of him drunkenly pretending to pull his tooth out in the locker room, which is so funny. I get really squeamish around teeth injuries, and I'm glad I wasn't in the room for that one.
Cam, where were you actually on the when it was all going down? Like, where were you in terms of like the hallway or the championship where they're spraying champagne? Like, where were you?
Yes is the right answer. Well, Justin, do you need to drop, or you want to?
Yeah, I should probably run.
All right. Well, Justin, thank you for making the time. Enjoy Mexico City and fresh guacamole and cheap avocados and beautiful weather.
Well, don't you have a tropical storm coming your way?
There's one. Yeah, it's kind of rainy and cloudy right now, but it's not too bad. It just gave me a wicked bad arthritis attack. Yay, aging.
All right, on that happy note, I'll see you in a little bit, Justin.
Better.
All right, thank you, Justin. All right, so Cam, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, we were talking about the golden baton.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on this idea? Actually, no, sorry, we were talking about that. We were talking about you in the championship. What happened when the championship was won, when people were spraying champagne everywhere, and were you getting champagne sprayed on your head?
Not at first. So you have to keep in mind it's a television program, right? So we got multiple emails saying these certain camera shots belong to ABC, and until ABC is done, these people can't go anywhere near it, and then the following people can't go near it at all. So I went with another writer, Bobby Kravitsky of SI, and actually Elder Alma was there too. I forget who he writes for right now, but we went down and we just kind of broke the rules a little bit, quite frankly. So we weren't quite in the sauce of the trophy ceremony, but right there on the court, which was phenomenal. But then we also had a job to do, right? Like we had to go to the press conferences. So after they do the trophy ceremony, the players and everyone, the champagne begins, and they either, I assume they're told they have to, or under their own volition, they get taken out of the locker room, they go down the hall, and they do press conferences. And you could see there's videos of them showing up in goggles and like high-fiving each other on the in and out. Usually we wait and wait and wait for the players. This was not like that at all. So what I usually do is I try to sit, so in between press conferences, I can like duck my head out and see what's going on elsewhere in the hallways. And so I just did that. So I was in the press conferences largely because that's my job. But it was super interesting. I felt really lucky. I got to ask a couple of questions I was really happy with. And then from there, what happened next? I found myself on the court there with the confetti and the stages, and a few people like Joe Mazzulla and a couple of the younger players were out shaking hands and talking to people. So actually, if you watch the Hoop Collective, you can see me just like zigzagging back across the court, like high-fiving people, shaking hands and whatnot. I later went in the locker room. I also wasn't really supposed to do that. Again, there was tears, and I'm not quite in that tier, but that's okay. They didn't seem to police it that much, so I didn't get sprayed. I got sprayed. I got covered in champagne from like team personnel, like stretching coaches and stuff, not any of the players because I showed up late.
Okay.
But the room was actually probably the wettest I got was just like the ceiling was dripping with champagne.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you like, there's a lot of videos and stuff where I'm somewhere in the background and on the hands.
Mike has a question for you, Mike. Mike has a question for you, Cam. Were you part of the?
Yeah, can I Yeah, I'll So look, I'm a high school teacher during the day. I do this part-time. I feel incredibly blessed that I get to do this. And Mike, what you're identifying was like strictly the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. You're supposed to play it cool as a journalist. Everyone there, just like they're laid back and they act like this isn't the most crazy shit that's happening. But some crazy shit happened. Mike Zarin, the assistant general manager, came out having been well served, and he kind of, there had been a basketball, and he's like, where's the ball? Where's the ball? So he went and got another basketball. And for a while, I played 3-on-3. It was me, Mike Zarin, and a guy from the sales team. And then Jalen came out a couple minutes later, And Mike immediately said, "Oh, Jalen's on our team." So for only like 3 or 4 minutes, I was on a 3-on-3 team with Mike Zarin and Jalen Brown
Oh my
before
God.
Jalen Brown's security guy was like, the floor is covered in confetti. He's not actually playing basketball right now. So Jalen facilitated a lot. And actually, I won't tell Mike Zarin this, but I really hurt my finger playing. I jammed my finger really bad doing that. So yeah, Mike, it was a couple other players showed up. I didn't see it, but Derek White apparently was just like running up and down the halls at one point. Um, Actually, I did see him doing that, but earlier than was reported. So I guess he was doing it a lot. I, I I don't know. We all experience professional wins and accomplishments, but I've never seen people celebrate as happy as and excited as I was. The players and the team. At one point, I watched Mike Zarin and Jalen just like embrace, and Jalen said to Mike, "You're the biggest Celtics fan I know," and there was just like so much happiness in the room. It was really special. So yeah, Mike, TLDR, I was there for that.
That's amazing. I'm actually curious, Cam, because you say obviously you are a teacher during the day. How did you? What was your beginning in actually working and being able to go to work for the Well, not you don't work directly for the Celtics, but you work for
USA Today, yeah.
Yeah. So how did that go down? How did you end up being a teacher
Uh,
who covers the Celtics?
I had a really zigzaggy route. So after I graduated, I have an environmental policy degree. And after I graduated, I started writing for Celtics Hub, which older people will remember, with Brian Robb. And always did that part time. I would do it here and there. And the team was bad and the rules were different. So I could get a press credential in part because it was way less competitive. Um,
Yeah.
so I would still do that part time. And this was like the Jared Sullinger days.
Oh, nice.
And I stuck with it through the first two, I think, Isaiah years. But I ended up actually moving to Australia for a year. I knew I was going to go to grad school. I was actually working in marketing, and the company downsized, and I was like, forget this. I'm going to go do something. So I moved to Australia. Um, I covered the NBA for an Australian website called the Pick and Roll for a little bit, and then when I got back, I covered the NBA from afar for a site called Off the Glass. And basically, it was never really more than beer money, but it was, I like the NBA, and it was like a reason for me to sit and gather my thoughts more than anything. Um, so yeah, probably since graduating 10 years ago at this point, I haven't really gone more than a week without writing something about the NBA. Sometimes because people pay me to do it, other times because it just like want to, like the exercise I find helpful. And then Justin is my editor at Celtics Wire, which is a USA Today site. We're part of the USA Today sports media group, so we cover the entire NBA. The both of us do. I got started with him 2 years ago, I think, and the Celtics Wire has been a partner to the Celtics for a long, long time. Kevin O'Connor was there, Jared Weiss was there. A bunch of people have done stints there. It's been a pretty reliable site, and I think it's because Justin is in Mexico City, so the editor can't go to games. It's been a reliable site, and I've been, at it for a while now. I think the team is supportive of my kind of like atypical situation. As is, my family, my friends, my fiance. I mean, I have a lot of support to make it happen too. So yeah, I just like I hit the lottery. I mean, I stuck with it. I know that I did good work. I know I'm good at my job, but like whenever people ask me, I just shrug. I just feel like really blessed that the craziest puzzle pieces fit together so neatly.
That's awesome. I mean, you put in the work, so sometimes the more practice, the luckier you get, as a famous golfer once said. Yeah, and now you're like one step closer to becoming a head coach. I mean, you have a
Apparently.
What do you make of that signing, by the way? Like, I think maybe we're too quickly to judge. I mean, you look at like really seasoned coaches like Monty Williams getting fired in 2 years. So like, why not JJ Redick? I mean, what do you make of that?
It was clear Darvin Ham was going to be fired. When the Lakers were in town, he popped his head into the media dining room and he said, "Where can I get a cup of coffee?" And I'm not like a hierarchical, tyrannical person, but if you're the head coach of a basketball team, someone finds you a cup of coffee. And so that felt like an example of, oh, this guy like really isn't in charge of much, it doesn't seem like. The Redick thing suggests to me that LeBron is definitely staying in LA. I mean, it would be bananas if LeBron leaves and they just hired, how old is JJ? 39, 41? However old he is, this guy with no experience to come coach a transition team. I mean, that would be so surprising to me. So to me, it's LeBron. I mean, he did that thing where he said, "Oh, I wasn't in on this," but like clearly he has been directing this. He picked a guy who he clearly vibes with. He likes the way he thinks about basketball, who's gonna nominally hold him accountable, and it'll be fun. And it's Hollywood, and it's sexier than James Borrego. No offense to James Borrego, right?
Absolutely. Or Hurley or any of those guys. Obviously, yeah, it just seems like a fun story. Like I don't know. If I was a Lakers fan, I'd be pretty down bad right now. I don't think the Lakers. I mean, what are the Lakers? What's there to be optimistic about if you're a Lakers fan? You have like an aging LeBron James, the glass man. Although Anthony Davis did have a good year last year, but yeah, who do they? I don't know. I don't feel like they're that much of a threat.
I reckon LeBron is quite good still. Anthony Davis is quite good, but that was probably the best that duo is ever going to play again. So if they can bring in a bona fide third star, they've got a chance. I think whoever said that, I think they should trade LeBron. I thought they should trade LeBron. It's just because he's going to leave for nothing at some point, and that's a huge hole to fill. They don't have any draft picks or anything. And the Lakers are supposed to be bigger than the Stars. Yeah, I don't know. Now that JJ is the coach, I'm inclined to assume LeBron is with the Lakers and with the Lakers this time next year. But prior to that, I would have said it doesn't make sense for anyone for him to stay with the Lakers other than he likes living in LA.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what we all thought when he joined the Lakers. Like this is some kind of a Hollywood move. Then he's trying to get into the industry and I don't know, shoot more Netflix documentaries or I don't know what exactly. Anyway, but yeah, I just feel bad for Grant Williams right now. Basically, I just think like you're on both teams. You're guaranteed. Is he going to get a ring? No, of course he's not going to get a ring. But like,
No.
I guess if the Mavericks were to pull it off,
If the Mavs had won, yeah.
Yeah.
Hilariously, yeah, if the Mavs had won, he would have gotten a ring. No, he doesn't. He doesn't get a ring. But he was there.
No.
He got to take it all in. He and Taco were there together.
I know. I mean, if you could, I guess that's an easy one. You've probably you can't answer Marcus Smart. If you could give one ring to one Celtics player that you have very strong ties to and you feel deserves it, who would you give it to?
Well, I mean, Lamar Stevens is going to get one, right?
But that's not a good answer.
Okay, so that's not what we're looking for. I don't know. That's a good question. I'm trying to think of who was on the team last year or who like got cut or something.
Well, I guess my answer is sort of cheating. But I've always wanted them to give Isaiah Thomas a little more shine. I mean, I guess that's like 4 years ago or something. But
yeah, that's kind of a reach. I mean, if Justin's idea of a baton or something, or like a lifetime achievement award,
yeah,
I like that. But yeah, I'm curious. I have to go after this, but now I just want to look up who was on the team last year that I'm forgetting.
Noah Vonleh.
Mike Muscala, maybe.
You want to give an honorary ring to Mike Muscala?
I loved Mike Muscala. I thought that was a great signing. I was so shocked that he didn't really.
He was solid. He didn't get a lot of playing time though, did he?
Oh wait. Okay, so I think the correct answer for just in terms of fan service is Blake Griffin, right?
That's a good point. Yes.
Like they could say he was a consultant during the year. They could come up with something, right?
Yeah, that's true. We could
definitely. Otherwise, I think Brogdon would throw it in the trash if they did that.
Yeah, Brogdon wasn't very happy with the Celtics, was he?
I think I understand his point.
Hmm. So Boston Base is here. He's a big fan of yours. He says, "I can't super
Oh,
chat because I'm abroad, but love Cameron." So there's your big fan.
thanks very
Um,
much. I can't chat either because I'm on my phone because my Wi-Fi kicked out, but I appreciate that. I mean, like I said, I find it so humbling to do this, and that anyone like ever would read what I wrote or check out my podcast is always it really touches me. So thanks. That means a lot.
it's great. Yeah, he's checking in from Greece right now.
Oh, nice. My uncle is Greek, so my cousins are Greek, and they're all in Greece right now as well.
Hmm.
They're Spartan, which I know I'm supposed to clarify that they're Spartan in particular.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know people could be Spartan. What does that mean? You're from Sparta?
Yeah, that's a. I mean, I guess I don't know what if Portugal is like that, but in my history class we talk all about national boundaries are pretty contentious, and it's like Italy. It's like it's not you're just from that country. It matters specifically where you're from. So whenever they,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
I mean, the United States is kind of like that too.
Exactly. It is. That's when you break it down, it's true. The US is like that. Definitely has your zones that people are very territorial. And Portugal and all these other places, I'm sure there's still a little bit of that, but probably way more fierce back in the
Yeah.
day, not so much today. Oh, Boston Base is actually hanging out with your uncle and he says hi.
Oh, great. Hey, John. How are you? Or Yanni, I guess over there. Tell him to behave himself.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, we got like a few more minutes here. I feel like we talked about most
Yeah,
stuff I wanted to talk about.
I probably have to jump in a moment, actually. But yeah, if you have a couple more questions, I can do it.
All right. So, chat, if you have any other questions you want to ask Cameron, go ahead. Um, I guess one question I can ask you, Cameron. So, when you watch the games, where are you watching them from? First of all, is there like a press area?
Yeah, so if you've been to the Garden, the press area is like if you're looking at the Celtics bench, there's a press area back to the left where I don't know, probably 2 dozen people sit. And back in the day when the team was bad, I sat there almost every game. This year, I sat there a few times, depending on who was in house. And then if not, the spillover media section is up in the halo, which is higher than the balcony. Um, but it's kind of nice. I mean, you get a little desk. They give you stats. They give you all sorts of things you need. The only downside to that is really you have to take a service elevator up and down. And so I've missed Joe Mazzulla press conferences because the elevator is in use for other things. Um, but it's this like omniscient view above, which is nice. So if you, like, I'm sure people here are aware of Noah Dalzell because she does great work on Twitter. All of her videos are usually from up in the halo, so that gives you a proxy for what the view looks like. So then, yeah, for the playoffs, it was like more crowded than anything I've ever seen. I actually most of the time ended up watching from like the family box seats in the Halo just because they cleared those out for extra media. So usually all the way up, but sometimes here and there.
And is there anything surprising about like covering the Celtics or just covering a professional sports team the way you do, and the access that you have, and sort of the I don't know, like I'll give you like a quick little anecdote, which is that I went to UMass Amherst, and I went to a couple basketball games. One of the basketball games that sticks out the most to me was because I saw Jameer Nelson and Delonte West for St. Joe's,
Mhm.
and they played, and like Delonte West was so automatic. Every single jump shot
Yeah.
was just wet. It was like the craziest thing I'd ever seen. I'm just wondering if anything like that stands out to you, with as someone with such access to these players, like anything that like the average person wouldn't really understand, but you have such a unique vantage of these guys.
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, off the jump, anyone who's met an NBA player, so they're just like taller than you could ever imagine. Um, I think that I think that the post game press conferences and the like mid quarter interviews and things like that do a real disservice to the players because they're so manufactured and the players are generally pretty uncomfortable that you get a bad sense of. I mean, what I wanted to say about Tatum was I think he's really charismatic. I think he's really thoughtful. I think he's really funny. And that doesn't really come across, it certainly doesn't come across in print. And it doesn't often come across in interviews because they're so canned. I mean, like, he's super polished. doesn't he works hard to not give you much to work with, but there's a lot that is lost in translation going from sitting in the room and kind of like hearing the sighs and like feeling kind of the energy that comes off the person talking versus seeing it on video or seeing it clipped on video or reading about it. So I guess my answer is there's more humanity lost in watching it on television or through Twitter than I would have guessed. I would have thought that, especially now where like everyone has a cell phone and the access is better than ever, I would have thought that you're getting nearly the same experience, but I think it's such a well polished entertainment product now that you're actually getting way less. And I think that's where the Celtics were really successful is I think Jalen, Jason, and Joe Mazzulla in triplicate just did not give anything to the media and didn't like the media and worked hard. And like as a defensive shtick, not in earnest. I mean, I've had a few spars with Missoula in press conferences, but after the finals, I had like the nicest conversation with him. So it's not an act. It's just like, I don't know if any of us, I mean, you've probably had this experience, even being on camera for a podcast, you kind of like inhabit a different version of yourself. And the first few times you do it, you're like, oh, this is how I sound. This is how I'm choosing to behave. And you kind of lean into it. And I assume giving a press conference is a code switch of a completely different stripe. So, yeah, I guess that's my answer is you're this. I'm not trying to say like, then I get to see it, ha ha ha. But like, there is something, you don't know these people. I don't know them. I'm not friends with them. I don't know them personally. But we don't get to know them as well as we pretend like we get to just watching on TV. I guess my answer.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because you almost have to guard yourself because there's so much access to you and because people will literally pull apart every little bit of how you act or what you say or how you breathe into the mic or like literally everything. So that makes sense. The only thing I will say though is I think that for me personally, when I got to see the way Jaylen Brown was like almost coaching the other players during the finals and
Yeah.
talking them through these really emotional moments, that to me felt different. That was like, wow,
Oh,
we
the
get to
mic'd
see a
up
side.
stuff is the exception to the rule. Yeah.
Right.
Or
Absolutely.
some of the behind the scenes access that the Celtics social has done this year as the exception to the rule. But once they're really aware that a camera's on them, like all of us, we act differently.
Yeah, but I'm really looking forward. Apparently, the guys who made The Last Dance made a series on the Celtics this year. Oh man, am I looking forward
Yeah.
to that? But last question, then I'll let you go, Cameron, which is from Boston base. What is your favorite Celtics merch this year?
I thought the hats are really nice. The white ones that they got, I like those a lot. I don't usually like the championship stuff. Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. The Bill Walton shirts, the tie-dye Bill Walton shirts, they're beautiful. They're a good tribute. And everyone loves Bill Walton, so I'm gonna pick that. That's gonna be my answer.
All right, that's a good answer. All right, well, Cameron, you want to just tell people where they should find you or any other parting words?
If they found this, they can find me. I'm sure you tagged me, and it's easier than spelling my name. Yeah, thanks. Thank you. I don't need Tandy. What's your real name?
My real
Or
name's
do you not do
Simon.
that? Oh, Simon, Tandy man. Thank you for this. I had a lot of fun. Thanks for thinking of me. And then yeah, thanks to anyone who has ever read or liked or clicked. It's staggering. And yeah, follow along on tomorrow's the parade, and I'm super pumped. I don't really know what I'm going to be doing, but I'll try to get some content out.
Awesome. Well, we all look forward to seeing it. So thank you, Cam, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Sure. Thanks very much. Adios.
Take care. Bye. All right. Well, those were my Celtics journalist guests, Cam and Justin. So you can find them on Celtics Lab if you're a Celtics fan, if you want to go catch up with more of their content. Cam's a really great follow on Twitter. It's like his full name, of course. I'll put it in the show notes once I find it. Yep, that's my real name. That's my real name. Yeah, great guests. That was actually something I was even thinking about. Like after I had the guy from the Knicks, Eru, on, and then like Colton is a Jazz fan, and now these are Celtics fans. I sort of thought about the idea of maybe as we head forward, as we continue to evolve this show, bring forward fans of different teams. and just see what's going on with them. And maybe that'll be interesting. Maybe it'll be interesting to get different takes because, like you know your teams better than anybody else when you're a real homer for that team. But we're just about over an hour. Is there anything to quickly touch on for NBA Top Shot? I know that those who are here like to hear a little bit about NBA Top Shot. I know we have a legendary drop happening. I made a little video for it on Twitter. I don't know when exactly it's dropping, but it is dropping. So if you're into that, it's there's two options, of course. You got your quick grips for $10, and then your legendary packs are going to be $800. It's going to be one guaranteed legendary, one. The second one, you have a 5% chance at a second legendary, and it's going to be a 9-player set. 6 Boston Celtics. Jaylen Brown is the Challenge Award, and then you're going to have some Mavericks in there. You're going to have Lively, Kyrie, and Luka legendary moments. So, and I think there's only 200 packs just about. So not a lot of them available, but that's coming up, just so you know. Otherwise, is there much to talk about lately? I mean, not really. I just think it felt really good as a Celtics fan to have your team win the championship. It was just pure ass kicking the whole way through, just pure domination. And for people who didn't like the finals or didn't like the playoffs because there wasn't enough like drama, also there wasn't enough Steph and LeBron. There was none of Steph and LeBron really. So that can be a little hard for people. Change is hard, Change is hard. No matter what phase of life you're in, no matter what you're dealing with in life, change is hard. So this is like the passing of the torch. But anyway, that's about all I got, guys. Yeah, don't have much more to say. It's been an entertaining and enjoyable show, though. I enjoyed having a couple of journalists on there. They have really enviable things they get to do. Playing pickup basketball with Jaylen Brown sounds unbelievable. But that's all I got. I appreciate you guys for showing up. I appreciate you guys for hanging out. And I will see you next week. Have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.
Static Selector.